welcome to this week's EdTech tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about some advanced features in Google Docs, including a Chrome extension that is really helpful. And we're also going to be talking about how to do a more advanced version of a Hyperdoc. So last time I talked about some basic features of Google Docs and I created the Hyperdoc that you're seeing on the screen. I'm going to be making some changes to this today in order to show you some of these more advanced features. So the first thing that we're going to talk about doing is using a Google Chrome extension called Colorpick eyedropper. You'll see I have a little tab open up here. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But the first thing I'm going to do before I do this is I'm going to be changing this comic strip up here to a picture. So one of the cool things about the Colorpick eyedropper is that it allows you to kind of color theme your project that you're doing. And it allows you to exact match to some kind of picture you already have. So I'm going to take this out and I'm going to replace it with a different picture. Alright, so I've chosen a picture of a mountain. Those of you who teach English or language arts know that often the plot diagram, like this one down here, is often compared to a mountain. It's sometimes called the plot mountain. So I'm just trying to be thematic with it. But now I see my background doesn't really go very well with this picture. So if I want to make it look really pretty, I can use an extension called the Colorpick eyedropper to help me with that. Now there are a lot of different versions of this type of Chrome extension, and not all of them are created equal. This is the one I've found and I've used most often that is helpful and doesn't have quite as many issues as some of the other ones. So I'm going to click over here on a new tab. So what I did was I went to the Chrome Web Store, so you could just search for Chrome Web Store, and I put in Colorpick eyedropper, and you will find this particular one. So you can see when I did it without the space, I got this one. When I did it with the space, I got this one. They're really kind of the same thing, these other color pickers down here. But either this one or this one, which is the one I'm going to use today, are both pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add to Chrome. It's going to ask for permission. I'm going to go ahead and hit Add Extension. And then up here in the upper right corner, a little wheel is going to appear, and that is going to make it active. So it won't do anything until you click on it, so we'll get to that in just a second. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close the tab. There's my images that I was looking for. And now I'm going to match the background of my page to one of these colors here. So now's when I need that extension. So I'm going to click on the little extension, and now the color picker is enabled. And see, it's giving me a lot of information that looks sort of weird, right? But what it's going to do is now, see when I hover over anything, it's looking at the pixels, and right underneath that, I can't point at it because I have that little crosshatch thing, it's telling us what the color number is, and that's what becomes important for us. So let's say I want to match the background to this blue, kind of blue-gray background here. So I'm going to click, I want it a little dark because I already have on my font as white. So I'm going to go to get a little bit darker gray, and you can tell what color you're actually focusing on through that little square in the center, or whatever the color is it's showing up next to those numbers on the bottom. So I'm going to click here, and now it's given me a number. So I'm going to copy and paste this. So I'm going to Control C, or you could right click and copy, and now I'm going to go up here. I'm going to hit the little X. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to File. This is what we did in the last video. Page Setup, and I'm going to go to Page Color, and I'm going to choose Custom. Now I'm going to paste that number that I just put in here, and it's going to find that color right there for me that will perfectly match the picture that I have in here. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to change to that color, and I'm going to hit OK again. And now my background is perfectly matched to this little pixel that I chose here in the center. Now I could do the same thing with one of these green colors. So I've activated it again. I could choose this color green here in the middle of these trees. Copy and paste. Close this. Go to Page Setup. And I could go to Custom. And I could paste that in there. And now I have that color up here. say OK, and now the background matches that green. You can also do this if you want to match the font colors. So let's say that I want to match, instead of white for my title, I want it to be like the green that I was just looking at. So I'm going to take this, and since I've already chosen that color, I'm not going to open the extension again. It's already in my clipboard. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to go up here to the color. I'm going to hit custom. I could also choose it here because I had just played with it earlier. But I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to say OK. And now my color here matches perfectly this. So these color matches actually turn out to be really useful in a variety of places. You don't just use them on Google Docs. You could also use it in Google Slides to perfectly match your Google Slides backgrounds to pictures that you have included in your Google Slides. You can use it in Canva or other kind of publishing programs like that, or graphic design programs. So the color picker is really useful. It's only usable in Google Chrome though, so if you are in another web browser like Firefox or Safari or something, you'd have to look and see if there are extensions for those web browsers to be able to do that. So now that I have everything all color coded and it's matching, everything is matching together, I'm ready to move on to the second thing I want to show you today, and that is how to create a table of contents in your Google Doc. So one of the cool things about Google Docs is that it does allow you to take really long documents and make them into searchable within that document. So one of the things I'm going to do to start that is, let's just say that I was going to make a every section of this assignment on a separate page. So I'm making a few formatting adjustments to make sure that this looks okay on the page by itself. All right, so I'm making this the center of my page, and now I'm going to take every section of my document and I'm going to make it on a separate page. So what I'm doing when I get to the beginning of a section is I'm just pushing Control Enter, and it's giving me a page break. So now instead of one long continuous document, now I have each section of my document is on a separate page. So on this first page, I could include a table of contents that would allow students to be able to click to go to those sections. So the way to do that is to change all of the headings in your document to linkable text types. So I'm highlighting, I'm going to go ahead and zoom this in a little bit. I'm highlighting this title here, and I'm going to go up here. Do you see where it says normal text? I'm going to change that to heading 1. Okay? Now it is going to change my formatting, which is a little annoying. If you do all of this before you select your fonts and that sort of thing, then it makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to go back and change everything again. So I'm going to go ahead and fix all of it. So it does have spacing that it puts in there for you, so you can remove the spaces before and after the paragraphs. And make it look just like it did before. So I'm going to change it back to white also. But it is still now, notice it says heading 1. And this is normal text. So now, because that's a heading 1, it's going to automatically go into the table of contents when I create it. So now I'm going to click on this one and do the same thing. So I'm going to turn it into a heading 1. Any of these here, title, subtitle, heading 1, 2, 3, and then there are some other ones that you can choose. Those are all linkable when you're doing the table of contents. So I'm going to reformat. Okay, and I could continue doing that with all of my other ones, but I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this demonstration. So I'm going to go back to my first page, and I'm going to click here where I want to put the table of contents, and I'm going to go to Insert, Table of Contents, and it's going to give me some choices. So I could do one with page numbers that doesn't have any links, or these ones that are blue, they'll be blue links. So I'm going to click here, and now I have a linkable list of table of contents. Now these can also be reformatted. I could change these to the same font. I could make them bigger. I could also change the color. And now all of these are links. So when I click on this one, so learn new information is on the next page. But I could also click here and it's going to jump directly to that place in the document. So table of contents can be useful if you have a really large document for students to work in. The last thing that I'm going to talk about today is how to add drawings. So drawings are useful for students not because you want them to draw anything, but because you might want them to manipulate a picture for them to be able to add information. So if you're in science or math or English or even history at a map or something, you could have students add information to a diagram that already exists. So I'm going to go down here to this plot diagram picture, and I'm going to change this one to one I want students to edit. So I'm going to select the one I already have in here, and I'm going to delete it. Leave myself a little bit of space in here. And then I went to Google Images and I searched for a blank plot diagram and I found one that I like. So I'm going to right click, copy image address, then I'm going to go back over here. Now normally if I were just going to drop this in, then I would insert the picture or go here, insert image, and by URL and put it in there. But I don't want to do that yet. I want to make this editable for my students because you can see in the picture there are little lines, little places for them to add information. So instead, I'm going to go to Insert Drawing, and I'm going to put New, and now it's brought me to a Drawing tab. And now you'll see there's a place here where I can add an image. So this is where I'm going to add the image. I'm going to put by URL, I'm going to paste this, and now it's going to add it to this drawing. So now what I have to do is I have to give a place for my students to be able to include their answers. I want them to label this. So I'm going to click off of the picture and I'm going to add text boxes wherever I want students to enter in information. So I'm going to put a text box here, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it 2, 3 more times, and then I'm going to take those new ones and I'm going to drag them to the new spots in my document. I guess I need one more. So now my students will be able to click on those places and type in the answers to each one of those. Now if I want to make it really obvious that this is where they're supposed to put it, now I can fill each one of these. So I'm going to fill it with yellow so that my students can really see where they're supposed to add their answers, because you can see when I put them in there they're kind of hiding and my students might not be able to see that very well. So in my directions then I'll put wherever you see a yellow box, add the information. So I'm going to hit save and close. And now it's dropped it into my document. So now all I have to do is change my directions. Okay, so I have adjusted my directions to say double click on the plot diagram below, because students will have to double click to get into it. And when it's open, type in the yellow boxes to label each part of the plot diagram. So now all my students have to do is double click, and now they're in the drawing themselves and they can type in each one of these boxes, just like that. And when they hit save and close, now it's going to show up for them on this document. So if you assign this in Google Classroom and make a copy for every student, then each student will have their own plot diagram to complete. So these are the advanced features that I gave you today for Google Docs. I hope you find good use for them. Thanks for watching.